Why couldn't the Turks capture Vienna? Has anyone ever asked that question?
We couldn't take Vienna. When history books tell you about the 1683 siege of Vienna, they usually describe Jan Sobieski's winged cavalry descending from the Kahlenberg Hills, Merzi von Lucara Mustafa Pasha's ambition, or those bloody battles in front of the walls. However, when you look at the map through the eyes of a strategy expert, the story reveals a much deeper and darker truth. The Ottoman army had already been defeated on the logistics maps months before that famous cavalry charge on the morning of September 12th. The 1683 campaign is more a story of an empire crashing against its logistical limits than a military failure. Today, we will examine how one of history's largest military machines slowly drowned in the triangle of geography, distance, and time. This is the anatomy of not just a siege, but a massive logistical suicide. The strength of an army is not measured solely by the sharpness of its swords or the number of its rifles.
The true strength of an army is its capacity to feed the hand that holds the sword and to transport the gunpowder that fires the rifle thousands of kilometers away. The Ottoman Empire's range system was a logistical genius far ahead of its time. An army setting out from Istanbul would reach pre-stored food, ammunition, and animal feed at main stops like Edirne, Plovdiv, Sofia, Belgrade, and Buda. This system was like the links of a chain stretching thousands of kilometers. However, every chain has a breaking point. The most critical element in Ottoman strategic planning was the campaign season. Traditionally, the army would set out from Istanbul on the 6th of May, on Hıdrellez. The choice of this date was not coincidental. It was the time when the weather warmed in Anatolia and the Balkans. Pastures where animals could graze turned green, and dirt roads dried up. However, this schedule also had an end. Early November, known as the November Days. According to Ottoman military doctrine, the army had to return to safe harbors or the center before winter set in. The distance between Istanbul and Vienna is approximately 1,500 kilometers. It takes approximately 100 days for an army of 150,000 people to traverse this path with massive weights. This simple math means that when the army reaches the walls of Vienna, there is only a time window of 60 to 70 days left to complete the siege. Nature had granted the Ottoman army a very narrow corridor. This narrow time window was the biggest obstacle in front of Merzi von Lucara Mustafa Pasha. However, the main reason that led to the disaster in the year 1683 was not just the calendar, but the heavy firepower that the army could not bring along. When the Ottoman army set out from Istanbul, they did not take the massive cannons that could demolish fortresses. The reason for this was not arrogance, but a geographical necessity. The endless rains of the Balkans had turned the roads into a sea of mud, causing the animals that would pull the thousands of kilograms of cannons to perish. When the army reached the walls of Vienna, it only had light cannons that were insufficient to batter the walls. This situation turned the siege from a war of annihilation into a war of attrition that lasted for months. Vienna was the farthest point of the Ottoman range system. A loaf of bread or a bushel of gunpowder leaving Istanbul would increase in cost, be plundered, or spoil by the time it reached the siege line. Although the army tried to procure supplies from nearby villages, Austria's scorched earth tactics and attacks on supply lines brought the massive force of 150,000 people to the brink of starvation. As the siege dragged on, the days of November were approaching. Merzi von Lucara Mustafa Pasha, while waiting for one last move to enter the city through the breaches in the walls, neglected to watch his back. When the Crusader army under the command of Polish King Jan Sobieski attacked the Ottoman army, which was logistically exhausted, demoralized, and caught between two fires, from the Kahlenberg Hills, the result was more of a disintegration than a battle. The 1683 siege of Vienna was not a lack of military skill, but a collision with the geographical limits of logistical capacity. The Ottoman war machine had not yet surpassed the technological threshold to feed and support such a large army at a point so far from the center. It was not only cannons or banners left in front of the Vienna walls. What was left there was the Ottoman Empire's belief in absolute advancement in Europe. History teaches us this. An army's strongest military abrika faki abristarisha ile değil, en arkadaki erzak arabasının hızıyla ilerler. Viyana'da duran, Osmanlı'nın kılıcı değil, o kılıcı tutan eli besleyen damarların kesilmesiydi.